Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of Every Day of Draft Day. I'm your host, Dan Turner. With me today, the newest member of Champions Round, Steffi Smalls. What's up, Steph?
What's going on? I'm so excited. This is so fun.
This is great. This is great. I can never escape Giants fans for some reason. Yeah,
Sorry.
it's not. Yeah, it's all right. It's a curse. I just gotta live with it. All right, so a bunch of stuff to talk about today, and not a lot of time to do it. So let's just jump right in. So news broke today that Justin Fields is going to have his very first NFL start this week at Cleveland. Do you think that Hurts is going to fall, or Hurts Fields is going to fall flat in his face, or do you think he's going to do pretty well?
Honestly, there's so many quarterback injuries and rookie quarterbacks. I keep doing the same thing every time where I'm like mixing up their names, and you're an Eagles fan. But I think no matter what we've seen is the offense looks better regardless of the stats. I don't care. It looks better when Fields is there, right? It adds it's a total different feel. My problem is, are they going to be able to come up with an offensive scheme that also highlights that, because they were really playing calls that was Andy's style of football. So they have to make that adjustment. I think that he still is worth, putting into your lineups, because I think we'll see Fields for the time to come. He made some rookie mistakes against that Cincy D, but I think overall he'll shake it off and is going to end up flourishing in this system.
Yeah, I agree. I think that now that he's starting, it would be a mistake to go back to Andy Dalton even when he gets healthy. I think it should be Fields' team. Let him take his rookie lumps and let him learn the system. I think that this week it's Cleveland's defense isn't like the greatest in the world. I feel like if you drafted Fields, you drafted him for exactly this reason. I mean, you want to start him unless you have Patrick Mahomes or some other or Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts or something. But otherwise, throw him in there, see what happens. He has a decent rushing floor. We know he's one of those
Right.
Konami guys. So I mean, he's going to have some mistakes, but he has some decent weapons in Mooney and in Robinson. So I'd feel comfortable, tossing him out there, see what happens. He might have a huge week for you and win you a week.
Yeah. And we talk about his mobility, right? I think something that people forget is, like, even in college, a lot of the times we were just talking about how phenomenal of a passer he was. And then he came into the NFL draft and we're like, holy crap, this boy is really athletic and he can run and he has really great mobility. So, like, any of those skill players with Fields there is fantastic. Like, it's only going to be better for those players because he is a very accurate passer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely something that doesn't get talked about enough with Fields is his passing. It's always like, oh, Fields is going to be a good rusher and stuff, but and he has the weapons and hopefully they, like you said, they tailor a scheme. I know it's pretty short notice to highlight what he can do well. Speaking of quarterbacks, we're going to go to your favorite quarterback. I can't believe I have to talk about him in a positive way. But, at the beginning of the year, everyone was really, really low on Daniel Jones. We thought that the Giants offense was going to be absolutely nothing. But he has, caught everyone by surprise. Speaking of, Konami and mobility, he's shown a surprising amount of mobility. He has, it seems like a 60-yard run, once a week now. Do you think that Daniel Jones is going to be able to keep this up and be, thrust into that upper echelon of quarterbacks for fantasy, or do you think that it's just a couple weeks and then teams are going to adjust and we shouldn't trust his output?
Yeah. So I expected him to do well this year. I did not expect him to be like QB4, QB5 conversations, right? I mean, like, through the 2 weeks he's finishing at QB5. That's pretty shocking for me because of the Giants system, but I think he is developing as much as we want to knock Daniel Jones. Like, even in the passing game, you're seeing him, like, that second half actually go through his progression reads. And I think their offense right now, as it stands from what we've seen, is Sterling Shepard and Daniel Jones. And the boy's got wheels. Oh my gosh. He's had 2 rushing TDs. He could have had 3 if it wasn't for that holding call. So I think he's a very great, like, whether you like Daniel Jones, whether you think Daniel Jones is talented or not, he is a very, very, very good fantasy player right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's thrown for over 500 yards. He has over 120 yards rushing. He actually has more rushing yards and more touchdowns than Ezekiel Elliott.
Crazy.
If you had paid me $1 million at the beginning of the year, no one would have taken that bet. They would have had more at this point. Obviously, it's early in the season, but still, the fact that he has those kind of numbers is phenomenal. Sterling Shepard has, was another guy that people left for dead, but he's, broken out in a big way, and he's a PPR machine. this year.
Right.
So I think that, it's the kind of offense that they're running. Yeah, and obviously I'm an Eagles fan, but I think that they can keep it up. They're going to be in a lot of shootouts because overall the team isn't that great. I think we can both agree on that. It's not the greatest team in the world, but for fantasy purposes, he's in a perfect spot. He has a guy that's reliable, that's going to catch the passes.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever Evan Ingram comes back healthy, hopefully he got some new hands. So in the long run, I think he's definitely someone that you can get for free. That I don't, not in my leagues. I don't think anybody drafted him unless it was a super flex and like the third
Sure.
QB. So he's a guy that definitely that could surprise and win you a couple games.
Yeah, definitely. And you're seeing the best part is he is definitely like you can see that he has improved and that there are improvements. The thing that's probably holding him back is Jason Garrett, but I think that he's kind of starting to be like, okay, no, and he'll like call an audible and do his own thing. Like, so there might be a little bit of progression there as well, where he starts to control the game. And also has a great matchup. So regardless, like if you can pick him up off waivers and, when Herbert has a bad matchup or Tannehill is still not performing very well, he's a really great option to put in.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when we haven't even mentioned Saquon Barkley, when he gets up, healthy as the season progresses, if they run some RPOs and stuff like that, it's going to be, and he keeps a couple of them, that's only going to help him out with his rushing numbers because everyone's going to be focusing on Saquon, not really about him. It's going to take a while, I think, for teams to get up to speed and to start respecting his rushing ability because people, I think, are you treating it as an aberration, but I think that it's here to stay, and he's definitely someone, if you're QB is struggling, if you have like a Baker Mayfield, someone you can pick up and spot start and see how he can do for you. Maybe give you a 20, 25 point week.
Yeah, I totally agree. My dogs agree too, apparently. You guys can hear
it,
but
as long as the dogs agree, then we know we're right.
We are a Giants household. We are all in on Giants players here.
Even the dogs agree, so we know we're good though. Dogs can't lie, so I'm confident we're right. All right, staying in the NFC East, we have a slight surprise. We touched on him earlier. Ezekiel Elliott. He hasn't really been, the Zeke of old. Tony Pollard's come in and pretty much outplayed him to start the year. Do you see that trend continuing where Pollard ends up being, maybe not the running back one in Dallas, but outperforming him in fantasy?
Yeah, so I, was someone that was a little bit lower on Zeke going in. I think that you saw, regardless, Zeke is a fantastic football player. That's not the point. There was regression last year, and it's hard to argue that there wasn't, right? Because he wasn't the Zeke that we all love. And I think having him stepping up, which I've always loved him. Memphis, great. Any running back that comes out of Memphis, I'm always a huge fan of. They just breed awesome athletes. When I was like thinking about things for the show, is this going to be a Chubb and Kareem Hunt situation, right? Like it reminds me of it. That's all I could think of when I was like looking over the numbers, looking at the way that they were used. I think that we might get that kind of situation where you see Pollard be able to, this is the definition of a handcuff running back situation, because if Zeke goes down, there's there's no way that Pollard would struggle as the RB1 because he could probably stand alone in that role. Yeah. But I think that for the Cowboys, Tony's the way to go. I mean, he needs less volume to produce more than Zeke does. And you're seeing them also use Zeke. He's randomly a very good blocker, too. I don't know if everyone's noticing they're using him in that role, too. So I don't think, what did Zeke finish like RB6 and Pollard finished RB3? We saw a lot of that, Kareem and Chubb last year. So I think it'll be a similar situation. I don't think one is going to get phased out. We know Jerry Jones, especially as NFC East fans here, is like he's going to the person that's getting paid is going to get played. And that's probably what the Cowboys have struggled with a little bit. Like, stop trying to sell jerseys and focus on winning a little bit more. And maybe we might see a little, but I mean, the Cowboys look good. I'm not going to knock them for it, but I think it's better for the Cowboys than it is for fantasy, right? Like, we would love for Tony not to be there, but as NFC East fans, we would we don't want both of them because they complement each other very well. And when you have complementing running backs, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, it's bad for the rest of the teams.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that the Chubb Hunt point is a fantastic point. That's something I haven't actually, seen anywhere else. Like, that's the exact kind of situation. Like, I was looking over doing the research for the show, and Zeke has 31 total touches and Pollard has 23 with more receiving. So I mean, there's definitely standalone value in both, just like Hunt and Chubb have. So that's something definitely I can see, moving forward where Zeke is more for his pass protection and gets those tough yards,
Yeah.
and Pollard gets that, those passes out of the backfield, especially with some injuries to the wide receiver core in Dallas. But I think you just summed it up perfectly. I mean, I really can't say much better than what
Right.
you did.
I mean, because look at like you look at the Raiders, for example. Like look at Jacobs and Kent. Like they're very similar players. There's this like fake thing that maybe Drake had like a brief period of being receiving. He's really not. They're very, very similar. Like, career touches is the only thing that Kenyon probably has on him. And you don't like that for a system because how do you figure out when to use them? Whereas in fantasy, like these are both still viable options no matter what. Like I think Tony now, like we can have the debate, like does he step into this role of being like one of your starting running backs, or is he more like, should he be a flex option, which he absolutely should. But I think Tony, the entire year, we're going to see him involved because he is that explosive player that this team needs.
Yeah, I think for where he was drafted, and especially with all the injuries happening, to like the starter running backs, that you can definitely make a case for him, being at least like a running back 2 for you. I mean, the amount of guys that are getting the points that he's getting with that much work is not a very long list.
Yeah.
So I would definitely be comfortable if he gets the work he's getting now and producing the same way to slot him into that running back 2 spot. Absolutely.
For sure.
Speaking of running back injuries, we turn to the San Francisco backfield, in which every single running back is hurt. Jermichael Hasty has a high ankle sprain. Elijah Mitchell has a shoulder injury. Trey Sermon got knocked out with a concussion in the Eagles game. Sorry about that, guys.
I swear the second that they said they were going to run the ball 500 times, everyone just started dropping like flies. Like that, it like cursed them ever since then. And they were already a little bit doomed with him. Like Mostert, we love him. They're like, I hate the word injury prone, but like it was going to happen at some point. I just didn't expect it to happen so early on.
Yeah. Even Jeff Wilson didn't start the year healthy.
Yeah.
No one lasted very long in that backfield. So now they signed Chris Thompson today, and Jack Patrick, the former XFL guy, and I think Trenton Cannon is still on the roster. Do any of those guys give you any kind of confidence fantasy-wise, or do you think the entire backfield is just in a void until we get more clarity on when these other guys are coming back from injury?
Yeah, kind of the way we saw Mitchell playing too is like, I think this is just a headache of a backfield. I almost, something that I've been telling everyone, I would prefer just picking Wilson up, stashing him in IR, and then when he comes back, at least you have a starter there. But the problem is, we're probably not going to see him until November. And if they can get the running game going, do we just not see him in general? So it's, you're not losing anything by picking him up if you do have that IR spot. But again, I think it's going to be one of those headaches, kind of the way, Tampa's receiving core is every week, is trying to figure out who's going to get the ball. I hate that for fantasy. That's like my worst nightmare. I avoid any situation like that. So if you're cool with figuring it out for the week, great. It's not my thing. But I'm still not out on Sermon. I think that Sermon still has, I think the potential is still there. And if he gets hot, like they didn't draft him where they did to not use him. So I think there is slightly some potential there.
Yeah. Does it concern you at all that they didn't activate him for game 1? No?
Yeah, for sure. That was a little weird. You see this happen. I think they're probably kicking themselves for not keeping Wayne Gallman too. And I want to kick them for not keeping Wayne Gallman because he would have done so well. We saw him on the Giants kind of save us. He was putting up really great numbers those 5 weeks. He would have been perfect in this backfield. He's very durable too. So I can imagine they're not amused with themselves at this point. But I still think that Sermon does have the potential. He wasn't really NFL ready coming into it either. No. So it's not totally shocking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The kind of competition and stuff he was facing at Ohio State was a lot different than what he was facing in NFL. Exactly. But yeah, I completely agree on the Gallman thing. Out of all the people they kept, the one guy that could have used, they let go, and he would have been, he would have been a stud, getting all the carries and then that offense. But I think about the guys they signed, that Patrick, the guy, the former XFL guy, is someone I'd look at. He did really well, and obviously it was the XFL. It wasn't the same kind of competition. But he went to Florida State. He did pretty well there. So if anyone is looking for a dart throw, I'd probably throw my dart at him. Out of the 3 guys that are currently healthy there. Or you can just avoid it altogether and wait till
Yeah.
someone gets healthy and save yourself a headache.
And you also have to consider too, this is one thing, apparently, again, my dogs, what's going on with them, but Trey Lance, if he does end up starting, you have to remember he's going to take some of that rushing away from some of these guys too. So at this point, like until I figure out what's going on, I'm just probably a little out on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe they start Trey Lance at running back. Fool all of us.
Yeah.
But I agree.
Yeah.
Not touching it for now until there's someone gets healthy and there's more clarity in the backfield. Right. Stay on the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk, was a really big, a hot pick going into draft season. People, his ADP was really high. He thought it was going to be a breakout year for him, and he's had 2 targets in 2 games. Should we be panicking?
I'm panicking. I rooted for him all off season. I'm so upset with this. What is going on?
You did. You were on him all season.
I don't understand. Like, and honestly, last week, everyone wants to argue his snaps increased. I don't care. Like, he didn't do anything. It's not like you can increase his snaps to like 100%, and I'm not going to feel happy with what he did last week. I mean, there was really nothing, right? It was like 1 reception for 5-6 yards.
7 yards, yeah.
That's not enough, especially in the system where he should be, there's no excuse for him really not to be getting a little bit more work. And you see, what's the guy's name? Sheffield's, whatever his name is, kind of eating into that too. So are they going to go that direction? But I would imagine they're going to pass more now that the backfield is a little bit stickier. So is this the week that we see him, really step into his role that I'm hoping for? And I know a lot of people are, because I'm not ready to get rid of him. I put him on the trade block, but not a lot of people want to touch him either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're definitely not going to get the value, trading him now that you would otherwise. I agree. I think it's definitely time to panic. I was pretty low on him coming into the season. I didn't think he was going to be able to replicate what he did last year with Deebo coming back healthy and with Kittle coming back healthy. And even Kittle hasn't really had that great of a year either. Yeah. Deebo is pretty much the benefactor of most of the passing game. So it really surprised me that he pretty much had to earn his spot over Trent Sheffield, who no one heard of, before this year. So I really don't understand what Shanahan is doing there. I think that it's a mistake that, you're not putting your best players on the field. They did win, last week against the Eagles, but I think that, going forward, especially with the backfield in ruins pretty much at running back, you're definitely you need to, play him. Maybe give him some carries even because, he has that ability to get carries out of the backfield.
I almost think it's going to force them to start Lance. Like, I don't think they want to start Lance, but I think they're going to get to in a place where like they need to, because he's going to add more to that team and elevate that team. Like, Jimmy G is great. That's fine. But you're almost going to need Lance's legs at some point if you want to start winning, because I don't know. I think the 49ers maybe are off to just like they're one of the teams I'm less worried about. But it doesn't, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, if the running game is going to be not as great as we think it is, then teams are going to be able to tee off on Garoppolo, and he doesn't have the mobility necessary to survive that kind of, the pounding he would get there. So, hopefully, they start Lance sooner rather than later. I mean, there really isn't any downside to starting them. It wasn't like they were going to be Super Bowl contenders in that division anyway this year. So I figure with the same thing with Fields, get the rookie experience while you can. Yeah. Staying in the NFC West, let's see this segment. Let's go with the Los Angeles Rams. Going in, I was particularly high on the Rams, especially for Stafford and Woods. Woods hasn't really worked out as well, but Stafford seems to have found, the perfect spot for his skill set. He's, lighting the world on fire. He has almost 600 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, almost 70% completion percentage. And Cooper Kupp has been a revelation. He's, in the argument right now for wide receiver 1 overall this year. So. Do you think that they can continue that kind of, streak, or do you think that teams are going to adjust down the road and kind of curtail the kind of fantasy production we've been seeing the past couple of weeks?
Yeah. I think next week will be a really big test for them. I think we'll see, because they're not really a team that we need to see out of the gates do well, which they have done already. So I want to see how they fare up against a team like Tampa Bay. I think that will be a good test facing that defense, which I adore. That's going to be a lot for me. Henderson also being a little banged up. what's going to happen. I think, Cup, I agree though. Like, he might lead this league. It would not shock me by any means. He looks phenomenal. And as someone that was, I was low on him coming out of last season.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have him in a lot of leagues, and I'm very happy that I do, because obviously that's going to be Stafford's guy. We see the chemistry there, and I think it's something that he's someone he's going to rely on.
Yeah, I agree there. I think I didn't see the Cup breakout coming. I thought that Robert Woods would be the biggest beneficiary of Stafford being there, but it's pretty obvious now that Cooper Kupp is going to be Stafford's guy. It'll be interesting to see if when teams start rolling coverage in his direction, how they adjust. Even Tyler Higbee has had a pretty good season, tight end wise with him there. It does concern me a little bit with Henderson being banged up a little bit, but it'll be interesting for me to see how Sony Michel does there.
Yeah.
If he gets the start. Do you think that Sony could have a good game or two while Henderson is out, or do you think that the Sony Michel from New England is going to come? He's just going to suck.
It's so hard because I turned my back on Sony, and then he had the knee injury or whatever happened. Then he came back in the Patriots, and he looked really good. It was almost like, what the heck? Like, this guy has so much energy again. He's not slow as molasses. Like, he's making plays, and I like it. But I wasn't expecting him to have to step into a role. But again, like, this is someone that's if you can get Sony right now, do it. They have to have a running game. And I think that Sony is still like a very, viable option, especially if, you need to throw someone in flex, or one of your running backs is hurt. So I think he can very easily be that guy there. I don't ever want to rely on Sony Michel. I love him, but he's just not the guy that I want to rely on.
So would you take Tyson Williams or Sony Michel this week?
Who's Tyson have again?
The Ravens have the Lions.
That's right. I would probably take Tyson.
Yeah, that matchup is too good not to take him. I do. Like I said, I was curious to see what Sony can do, but that defense is incredible on all three levels, especially a linebacker. So I don't expect the running game of the Rams to be that good, even if when Sony starts. I think it's going to be a shootout. Personally, we would have like a 55-50 game, which would be great for all of us fantasy wise. But it'd be like you said, that's the first big test against the defending Super Bowl champs with a great defense, and we'll see if they can continue having that kind of fantasy success that they've sustained so far in the first 2 weeks.
Exactly.
All right, last topic of the day today. What in the hell is going on with A.J. Brown? I have drafted him pretty much as my number one receiver in most of my leagues, and he's done practically nothing. He's having some drop issues that are uncharacteristic of him, and Julio Jones seems to be taking a lot of the work. What's going on? Should we be worried?
What is going on with the Titans in general? I rooted for you guys all offseason. What are you doing? Get it together. Like, I'm so upset with them. I have a bone to pick with Ryan Tannehill. I have a bone to pick with AJ. I have a bone to pick with all these guys. Like, that's great that, again, everyone gets excited. It's week 2. Remember, all you have is week 1 to compare to. I don't care if a player played horrible week 1 and then showed up week 2. That doesn't tell me anything, right? That's a small sample size. I need more. I don't know what the Titans are doing. I think it's less the player's fault than maybe the play calling, maybe the way that they're running that offense over there. I think this will be a big week for them. The Colts D, though, they're good. I have nothing. I was surprised by how well they've been playing too, but I'm not getting rid of AJ Brown yet. I may regret that next week though, because I'm starting to get nervous. It's about, you can't have he has like an 83% snap share, 7 passes, 92 yards, and we're getting nothing out of him. He just can't get into the end zone. And it's very frustrating because I feel like the Titans are in this position. What else do you guys want? We knew your defense wasn't going to be great, but you have all these weapons on offense. it should be hard for for secondaries to cover you guys. You guys should be running a little bit more faster pace of an offense. And the game was great last week, but again, it came down to what? So AJ, I can't at this point, I'd rather start. I can't believe I'm saying this, and this isn't even a homer thing. I'd rather start Sterling Shepard because I seriously feel more confident in him than AJ Brown, and that's awful.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That's sad.
But that's but it's not crazy, and that's the problem. It's not like a hot take to say that you would start Shepard over AJ Brown, and that's kind of like the problem, really. I mean, Shepard has almost 20 points more in PPR than AJ Brown has, and that's crazy to me. I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think when Arthur Smith left to go to Atlanta, I think he took a lot of the offense apparently with him. Yeah. He has the AJ Brown stuff, and I think that a lot of the problem with people wanting to get rid of him is what you spent on him to draft him. I mean, you spent a really high pick, probably round 5 or lower pick to get him, and you just kind of have to hope that he can fix what's going on. After the Colts, the Titans have the Jets and the Jaguars, so I'm going to hold them until then. I mean, if he can't produce against the Jets and the Jaguars, there's absolutely no hope for him. In the season, maybe if he has a really good game against the Jets, maybe flip him for something else. But it'll be interesting to see the next week or two, as you said, to see what is going on.
Yeah.
We all expect Tennessee's offense to be hyper efficient and everything, and it just isn't that right now. So it's definitely worrisome to me. I'm not going to eject from the AJ Brown bandwagon just yet, but it's definitely raises a lot of concern for me personally.
I'm more worried about Ayuk than I am about AJ Brown because I think that this is fixable. I think that this is salvageable, and I think that maybe this is just a slow start for them. They had to get their rhythm. You have a lot of very big names there. There's just a lot kind of going on. And I think we'll see with how they play against the Colts. And then again, like you said, they have some nice matchups coming up. So it's not time to jump ship from him quite yet, because we know what he's capable of. Whereas Ayuk, I'm like, dude, you gotta do something.
Get on the field. Yeah. AJ Brown panic level is at a 5. Ayuk is at a 9 right now.
Yeah.
For me, so I definitely agree there.
Yes.
All right, so that'll do it for this week's episode of Every Day is Draft Day. Thanks, Steph, for coming on. I really appreciate it. It was awesome, hanging out, talking some football, even though I said nice things about Daniel Jones. I have to go throw up now.
Yeah, I'm gonna record it, cut it, and make sure.
It's saved in posterity. No, I can never run away from this now. It's gonna follow me to my deathbed. That is happening to Daniel Jones. So you can follow me on Twitter at EagleDanFF. I have articles pretty much every week on Champions Round. Where can people follow you, Steph?
You can find me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Steffi Smalls with 3 L's. And then all my stuff now is a Champions Round, which is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely check her out on TikTok and Instagram. She does sort of awesome work over there. It's really good. All right, everyone. Have a good week. Hope you do well in fantasy, and we'll see you next time.
Happy week 3.